This is not clickbait. I repeat, this is not clickbait. Captain America: Brave New World is the 35th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the first to feature Sam Wilson as Captain America, taking up the mantle from Steve Rogers. It is the fourth installment in the Captain America series and a continuation of the television miniseries The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. However, I would argue that that show is not essential to this film, which is great because I didn't like that show. The film is directed by Julius Onah, who directed The Cloverfield Paradox, which is not a good sign. The film stars Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, Danny Ramirez, Shira Haas, Carl Lumley, Giancarlo Esposito, and Tim Blake Nelson. After meeting with newly elected US President Thaddeus Ross, Sam finds himself in the middle of an international incident. He must discover the reason behind a nefarious global plot before the true mastermind has the entire world seeing red. This review will be spoiler-free. This is a contender for the worst film in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm serious. I think I would rather watch Thor: Love and Thunder or Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. At least I would get to watch Chris Hemsworth and Paul Rudd playing characters that I love. I don't like those movies, but they are nowhere near as aggressively boring as Brave New World is. There is no relevant story here. If they wanted to do a sequel to The Incredible Hulk, they should have done it years ago. This film almost entirely concerns itself with wrapping up the storylines of Betty and Thaddeus Ross, which could have been interesting in a Hulk movie, but it feels out of place here. Now, this is no shade to Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson. I have always loved the character, but he's a sidekick through and through. And to promote him to lead in a film that is a quasi-sequel to The Incredible Hulk from 2008 is baffling. It is safe to assume that Sam is supposed to be the leader of the new Avengers that will be assembled for the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, but they have done nothing to boost his character here. He has no character arc in this film, nothing to overcome, nothing to learn. He doesn't do anything in particular. He isn't made to discover what it means to lead, or to fill the shoes of Steve Rogers or establish himself. He talks of not taking the serum, but then that plot point goes nowhere. I severely disliked the Disney Plus series The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but even that had a more interesting story than this. At least there was conflict there about who was going to be Captain America. There was jealousy. There was the chemistry between the characters of Sam and Bucky. Harrison Ford does an admirable job as Thunderbolt Ross, but the film heavily marketed him as Red Hulk, and he doesn't transform until the third act, which leads to a truly dull fight that ends in a very lazy way. All the action in this film is dull, and there was so much potential for it to be more of a political spy thriller like The Winter Soldier is, which is a contender for my favourite MCU film. Much of this story is delivered in such a boring way that it can even be hard to follow at times. The MCU has had many failures post-Endgame, but I consider this one of the most monumental. Maybe it would be the most, if so many audience members hadn't already lost faith before seeing it. The Captain America movies are the gold standard of the MCU, so to fall on your face so spectacularly here is quite disappointing. This is assuming that the film actually tried anything, and it honestly doesn't feel like anyone actually tried with this. To be honest, my expectations were on the floor, but I was still baffled at how bad this was. There were so many reshoots, and yet this is the best that they could give us. 2 hours of nothing. As far as I know, this is the last project of the era of Bob Chapek as CEO of Disney. So hopefully it is onwards and upwards from here. He did a terrible job with the company, and I am glad that he is gone. Even if Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars are great, it can't save that most of the setup is lackluster and soulless. So many of the films leading up to that finale of Doomsday and Secret Wars don't have a plan. They don't set anything up. Some of them don't even consider the multiverse part of their story, including this film, and it's supposed to be the Multiverse Saga. They try to introduce a new Falcon in this movie to work alongside Sam, presumably in the future Avengers, and wow, he was a really forgettable character. The same goes for all the supporting characters, really. Ruth, Isaiah, Samuel, all just time wasters, with nothing interesting or exciting written for them, and hardly worthy of a series that has characters like Steve and Bucky. The film even completely wastes Giancarlo Esposito, and that's a sin. Why doesn't Hollywood know how to use this guy? He's such a talented actor. This film doesn't even feel like it plays into the larger narrative at all. What even is the larger narrative at this point? This should be an important film for the series going forward and for fans, and yet they decide to get the director of the Cloverfield Paradox, who has only directed 3 films before this. If you've seen the Cloverfield Paradox, then you know what I'm talking about. That film was shocking and killed a potentially interesting franchise in the Cloverfield franchise. Marvel cannot keep doing this to their audience. You may ask me why I keep going back if I keep getting let down, but I am not a cynical person by nature. I want the MCU to succeed. I want it to be great. The Infinity Saga was mostly great. I have actually been a champion of the multiverse concept, and I think that it can work. The Fantastic Four First Steps looks good, and Thunderbolts looks great, honestly. The marketing for that film has been really awesome, so I'm crossing my fingers. I really hope that those films are good. This was not. It is not like people are going easy on this film, but I don't think people are going hard enough. I am vehemently optimistic about most things in life, and that's how I approach my reviews, but I also believe in ultimate authenticity, and so I unfortunately cannot defend this film. I feel confident saying that this is the worst MCU movie. I just didn't enjoy a single aspect of it. I haven't a single positive criticism to pay it.